to your energy reading from episode 34 of Energy Linguist Podcast, where we're diving into your sacred worth. We're diving into that which you desire in life and what is in the way of you creating that. This message was really beautiful to channel on Energy Linguist Podcast, especially because the energy that came through during the podcast, meaning the words that were translated and transmitted, ended up being very differently than what they showed me within the field when I first tuned into the energy prior to the recording. And so it's really beautiful. What happens with my innate spiritual gifts is that when I'm tuning into the field, what often happens is divinity immediately offers up a solution. They will give me the elements of the field that must be nurtured and held, maybe seen or expressed, in order for us to transition out of what has been keeping us limited or stuck. And so it's really beautiful when they show me these key energies. They're essentially giving us the key. They're giving us the key to unlock that which sometimes we can get within the mind space and just wrestle with and re-identify with, therefore get stuck with. And so today I'm going to talk to you about the key of this energetic reading, as well as what came through surprisingly to me, how they focused the podcast episode. I'm going to really just kick off with giving you the juice here. The key and the answer to what you're seeking within this podcast episode exists in our heart and our solar plexus energy fields. This podcast in particular is talking about the price that we pay for our spiritual evolution, for our awakening. Many of you know that it typically takes an extraordinary challenge of some sort, often a loss, for us to reevaluate specific beliefs that we hold and to challenge ourselves into perceiving the world differently, maybe engaging with it differently. On my own journey, for those of you who have read my book, The True Calling, you know much about this intimate journey I had when I was widowed at 29 years old. And when I was met with, yes, the loss of my husband, Josh, but even before that, just that diagnosis and the prognosis that was given, it challenged within me beliefs that I held of what was possible and not possible. And in those moments of impossibility in our life, we're actually being welcomed in to deriving meaning that can either empower us or defeat us. And so this adjustment of our belief actually adjusts our identity. It adjusts our personality, and it is a commitment of sorts to the path we're choosing to walk. Today's episode of Energy Linguist Podcast was really centered around this really important truth that no matter whether you stay in your familiar zone or whether you go outside of that familiar zone into this new unknown territory, you are going to pay a price. And often the price is either yourself. The price you're paying is your evolution, your soul's purpose. Often, for those of you who are here to lead the world, to contribute your unique medicine, to really rise to levels where you're more visible and impactful and helping others, you're also sacrificing other souls that you have contracts with. And so there's an extraordinary price that gets paid when we don't move. But of course, there's also a price that gets paid when we move ahead. And the price that gets paid is the necessity of release to create the space to truly receive that which we desire, that which we are calling in to be manifested within our world. And so when we start to kind of lean into this choice to go, to grow, to evolve, the price that gets paid is the attachment to our old identity. Usually it is our habitual ways of being that make us feel comforted. It can be people, places, circumstances. There's an infinite number of things that we must release. Sometimes the release of the identity piece is the hardest part. It often has to be this piece in which I'm saying I'm no longer going to engage in the victim mentality. I'm no longer going to over rely on others. I'm no longer going to be engaging in a codependent dynamic. And really pulling ourselves off from that which may have been feeding us or making us feel safe can be the biggest challenge. And so it has everything to do with ourselves, right? The identity and how we're relating with the world. And so the energy that was coming through prior to this reading, when I tuned into the field, was showing me the heart energy. Now, within the heart exists our soul self. And for those of you who are either a part of my community or who have been exposed to my teachings, you know that I teach my proprietary methods on the conduit of the mind. And the conduit of the mind is not just the mind as in thoughts or even emotions, but it's this entire field that exists in which our identities and our beliefs coexist within our emotions, within our thoughts, and really ultimately determines the vibration that we're showing up as. And so when we talk about the vibration we're showing up as, we're also talking about the way we're choosing to, they're showing me like a frequency to place a ripple in the water. Like, where are you touching the world? What are you impacting in the world? How are you adjusting, they're saying, the collective field? Because how you vibrate, that frequency actually starts to create our reality, and not just our inner world of this reality, not just our external of like our intimate relationships, but actually collectively on a larger scale. So when we're looking at this heart energy that they were showing me being one of the keys, what they're saying is like the soul self. The soul self, the spirit that came here with specific contracts to live in a physical human body and to bring certain experiences into fulfillment. Because ultimately, our purpose is joy. And ultimately, the soul's journey is meant to lead us to a higher state of being awakened, to rediscover the self while still in human form. So rediscovering the spiritual self, reconnecting with that wholeness and the truth that exists within the core of us while still in a human body. And it's extraordinarily peaceful. And it also requires us to release everything we thought we once were, along with our attachment to the things, the material things, the physical things that maybe were holding us in a specific pattern within our lives. I feel the solar plexus rise. So they're saying they want to talk to me about it. They want me to talk to you about it. The solar plexus energy was another piece of that they showed me, and it has to do with the self-worth that allows you to pick your path. It's funny, they're saying pick your purpose. So they're not just talking about this in the sense of picking a path or choosing where you're investing your energy. Yes, but they're saying ultimately, what is the purpose? What is it that has the greatest meaning for you? What matters to you the most at your core? And that is a question that can create a lot of anxiety for some of us. Anxiety is actually an energy, an imbalanced energy of the solar plexus, because it brings into question this, I don't really know who I am. And this solar plexus energy is the seat of this personal power, of this clarity around our inner compass and who we are, valuing ourselves, knowing thyself. And so a lot of the times when that question rises, it can bring this anxious energy to the surface because we often do not know who exactly we are. And I can tell you firsthand, for a very long time, I was operating in ways in which I did not know either. And it took me losing everything and then losing more, to the point where, and honestly, I was at a place in my life where I didn't think anything else could be lost. And even if it was, I felt like I didn't have what to say. Like, if you're going to take it, take it. Like, what can I do? It was this absolute moment of surrender. And within that surrender, it allowed me to be met in this moment where I started to discover that all of the things that I believed myself to be, the things I loved, were actually influenced by those outside of me. In fact, if you look at a lot of the quantum science around evolution, we carry a lot of that in our frequency, memories even from previous generations. So there's a lot that we associate with the self that's not the self. But the other piece of that was permission to embrace myself in unconditional love, because what I discovered was I was also not the judgments. I was also not the labels. I was also, so not only was I not the things I thought I loved, or maybe I didn't even love them that much, maybe they weren't me, but I also wasn't the negative things that had been placed upon me. And within that experience, I started to recognize, it was my own awakening, that all of our experiences serve our highest and greatest good if we allow them to, and only through this lens of unconditional love, of acceptance of the journey, of all pieces of the journey that are meant to teach us, to allow it to be our teacher, to allow it to be the sage wisdom that we carry through, to allow us to know that the pain that we're experiencing, if there is a huge regret around it, it's not because you are condemned to be it. It's not because you're unforgiven. The pain that rises and the regret that rises is an indication that you are not that thing. And so that's something to take comfort in, take peace in, to say, I feel this way about those things because it's not really who I am in my nature. And that sets us free. And so there's this extraordinary energy that rises in this self-worth and the knowing of just knowing thyself beyond the programs, beyond the labels, and to fully come into this unconditional love of the heart chakra that allows us to then live out in accordance with that. So living our soul's purpose in the knowing that all things are happening for us, that we are in this extraordinary flow. And I mean, there's a lot of debate around how free is free will, but the knowing and trusting that there's divine orchestration that is meant to lead us to specific places, to this ultimate fulfillment. And there's so much love and guidance and wisdom and angels outside of you that are working to fulfill that, meaning they're guiding you, they're reorganizing things with every single choice you make to try to guide you on this path to your ultimate fulfillment. And so these energies coming through with this reading were really, really powerful. And the first thing they showed me were that they were the key. Like, this is the key to you giving yourself permission to love what you love, to desire what you desire, to really be in that yearning state of what you want to bring forth, what you want to experience, and to say, not only is it okay, not only do I not have to feel guilty about that, but this is actually the key to me becoming the best frequency I can for the collective. This is the piece in which I get to come into the highest vibration, where I will then be of the highest service. Now, all of you are here to contribute to the world. And so whether your mission is your family, maybe it's your community, maybe it's larger like mine is, where it's more on a collective level, where we're changing the field and we're really wanting to reach and awaken the awakeners so that they can come into the knowing and fulfill their calling. It doesn't matter what level it is, it's all just as important, because we are energy and we're part of this field. And so when you're looking at it through that lens, permission to allow yourself to desire, to know that that's actually an ignition that's being given to you from source, from God, from the light outside of you, allows you to release that guilt. And the key to releasing that guilt is to allow ourselves to find the unconditional love on our path, allowing ourselves to be willing to release that which is not us, the beliefs that are not resonant, maybe the desires that we were told we should like and we don't. Maybe you've sought a career for many, many, many years and are discovering, like, hey, I'm really great at this and it keeps me safe, but this isn't what I'm called to do. It's draining me. I was in dentistry for 15 years, you guys. I was amazing. Like, if I went to dive back into that industry, I would be hired on the spot. I am incredible at what I do. And it's not what my soul called me to do, because once we become awakened to the truth within us, we give ourselves that ignition and that permission to seek and to get out of the comfort zone into something unknown, and trust that because it's within me, because I feel it, that's the proof that it's meant to be. And so I want you to embrace that messaging today, because what I saw in the field when I first tuned in was actually on the right side of the field was like this energy pushing out, like pushing aside the heart energy, pushing aside the energy of that solar plexus and sacred worth. And what that was, it was fear energy. This like, no, just don't do it yet. Or you can't predict it, or it's not safe, or you don't know what you'll do financially. Like, just ignore it. And it was like this pushing aside of this opportunity that you have to come into this greater love and greater recognition of who you truly are. And so during the episode, what happens is it's not just a transmission where I'm channeling, though I am. It is also a healing, and it starts to remove that pressure that we were feeling and set it aside so that we can like fully embrace, fully be in the willingness to like hear the message and to allow it to change us from that vibration within the self. The other piece that was so surprising to me and glorious when you think about it, that started to open up right out of the gates, because I didn't think this is what I was jiving on to record, was the hyperfixation and the focus that divinity had around desire, meaning the sacral energy of that creativity. Because when I first dove on, they told me they wanted to talk primarily about just the price we pay. And oh my God, that could be a course. Like we could talk about all of it because, and it's important because when we're aware of the price that we pay, then it's not as much of a shock to our system. It's almost like we can brace ourselves to know that this is a choice and it's an intentional choice to pay a certain price to get something in exchange, right? Because when we know we're getting something glorious and something beautiful, we're willing to then give away that which, even though it might be painful to give away, is necessary to release. The energy of the sacral was really beautiful, and they really focused on it. And as we did this, the podcast, and also this reading right now, and just moving this energy, what I kept feeling was that energy opening up, that sacral center opening up, that creative center opening to rise into connectivity with the solar plexus, to rise into connectivity with the heart chakra, which is imperative because many of us are very deeply rooted, like stuck rooted in the root chakra, because it's like these safety mechanisms. And what typically keeps us kind of trapped in survival is that we're over yang in nature, meaning we have all of this masculine energy of control and I'm going to make things happen. I'm going to organize it. I'm going to predict it. I'm going to analyze it. And that actually locks down all creative potential. And so when we're looking at this rising and the opening of the sacral energy, it's really important because it balances, it offsets that which tends to like contract, right? The fear contracts, the self-worth contracts, all of this like doing energy overflows in the imbalance of that energy contracting. And so what this allows and what this indicates is that sacral energy, that yin energy, is coming back in to harmonize. And it's really beautiful that divinity would guide us into this today, but also in this awakening times, because right now we are in the largest awakening period known to man. The awakening is underway. It is more than halfway through. And what this is, it's the ushering in of the divine feminine energies, which means a return to balancing ourselves out with the yin, because we have been in this hyper masculine, patriarchal, externalized doing for so long that the pendulum swung so far one way, right? That it's create this substantial imbalance. But the yin's coming back to bring this back into this extraordinary balance. And so here we are with these messages coming through, this reading today, really supporting that sacral energy opening up, and to then allow us to open up and connect that with the higher energies that are seeking to inspire and both guide us as well. So I hope you love episode 34 of Energy Linguist Podcast. I hope you will subscribe to this channel below. Tell me how you feel. And did you feel anything for you intuitives? Did you feel anything in the physical body rise when you heard this messaging on this recording? And I cannot wait to be with you again. I'm so blessed that you're giving me your time. Your time is sacred. Your life is sacred. And I hope that you will lean into your sacred worth and truly start to claim what you desire in your life. Blessings. Namaste.